I feel like I accomplished everything that I had set out for in that video. My name is JC, and I'm going to learn how to astral project. The astral projection to me has been a huge milestone that I've never been able to reach. In fact, it is the first thing that got me into all of this. And it is an experience that I've had at random intervals throughout my life that I've never really controlled. Some days I just wake up and I'm out of my body. Some days I go into a meditation and it just happens. But it's always quick, it's short, and it's always just an insane experience. There are two primary reasons why I want to do this. Reason number one is I want to be the example. You see, it's extremely overwhelming to learn astral projection when you have little to no experience with it. And it truly helps when you can learn from someone who you can resonate with. And I want to demonstrate every single step that I take in as much detail as possible by documenting it. I want to cover how I get over my mental blocks, the fears I have that are keeping me from it. I want to go over my food. I want to go over my daily routine. I want to go over my sleeping schedule. I want to go over which mental mindsets work best for me. I want to go into as much detail as possible. And the thing is, I want to show how it's all connected. Second reason is my grandpa. See, my grandpa moved in with me my senior year of high school, and it was a big shock, but I love the man. He grew on me so much, and we were taking care of him because my family in Puerto Rico could no longer do that. And by the end of my high school year, he grew on me so much. And I eventually went off to college, and he was just so proud and happy for me. And that was a consistent thing. The man was always so proud and happy towards me that I couldn't help but smile every time I saw him. He had amazing character, and he was a wonderful man. But sadly, he passed last year, and I didn't get the chance to tell him that I loved him or goodbye as I wanted to. See, the night before he died, I had this overwhelming urge to call home and tell my parents to tell him that I loved him, because he had recently just been put in hospice. And for those of you that don't know what hospice is, it's kind of like it's their last days, and there's people inside your house that take care of them, make them comfortable, comfort the family. However, it was really late, so I decided to not go through with this urge and follow through in the morning. The next day, I went through my classes, and I remembered what I was going to do. Went to the bathroom, was washing my hands to make the call, and I got the call. Parents called me and told me that he passed. Ever since then, I'd never really forgiven myself for that, and it's always just kind of been a drive. I've always wanted to astral project because I know you can see family members who have passed. Yo! Before we begin, Nectar Juice Bar has absolutely no affiliation with me. I just don't want to take off my shirt before recording. I'm gonna speak, but I'm also gonna make my dinner, so you guys are gonna learn how to make a delicious salad along with me. So I feel like I accomplished everything that I had set out for in that video. I completed that a couple years ago, in my opinion, when I recorded the astral projection series that lasted quite a few episodes. I think it was called Astral Projection Reconditioning, where I documented every step that I took to get myself back into a state of consistent astral projection practice, where I then practiced I probably practiced publicly for maybe over a year, something like that. And then I became more closed off with that stuff. But anyway, I felt like I completed that first part. And as for the second part, there was one instance where I wasn't totally sure. But yesterday morning, I had an experience that was pretty cool. And I'm gonna give out every detail that is involved with it, and you guys make your own presumptions of it, okay? After astral projecting for a while, it became hard to really determine them from like a dream in terms of how you felt inside of them, how things could function. because I've had some dream experiences that have been incredibly vivid, and I've had astral projection experiences that have been incredibly vivid, and then you listen to the yogis and those, you know, consciousness scientists, by that I mean yogis, and they say that dreams take place on the astral realm, and you know, is basically the line's blurred. The line's blurred, and so it's very easy to say, oh, that's just a figment of your imagination. You came up with that. And other times it could be, well, maybe I came across my grandpa's spirit. But not to hold you back anymore. By the way, romaine lettuce, clean your lettuce. I came across my grandpa in this experience, and he was sitting in my family home's kitchen, and across from him was sitting my dad. And my grandpa looked a little bit younger than he looked when I last saw him. When I last saw my grandpa, he was in his later 90s. I think it might have been early 90s actually, but either or, he's old, right? He couldn't really walk that much by himself, and he moved very slowly. Had the gray hair. He at that time really only spoke Spanish. He didn't speak English. I had one memory of him speaking English to me, and it was when I was 7. My family went out of the house. At that time, my grandpa still lived in Puerto Rico and not with us over in the United States. And by the way, for the leaves, you want to chop them, fine. I really like them fine. You can have them bigger, but you know, it's your salad. You do what you want. I feel like the Bob Ross of salads right now. Maybe that's what I'll be. Maybe I'll start a cooking channel. Anyway, I digress. He was an older gentleman. He'd only ever spoken English to me once, and I told my parents, and they were like, whoa, that's kind of cool. Meaning that it wasn't something that he did often, is how I took it as my 7-year-old mind. And he never spoke English to me fluently like that ever again. And even as I think about it, he might have said a word or two to me during my time with him when he was with my family before he passed. But I say that to say, he didn't speak English in his last years. And he especially didn't speak it as fluently as he was saying it in front of me in this experience. And so he's talking to my dad, and he's saying, like, yes, this girl taught me how to speak English. A younger girl taught me how to speak English. And, you know, I came to, and I was like, huh, like that was really nice. And I know it's very, very short. I go into the kitchen, boom, grandpa's sitting here, my dad's over here. They're just talking. I'm looking at them like, huh, like, cool, like you're doing well, you know? I come to and I decide to just shoot my dad a text. I tell him the experience, I tell him the details, I ask him if he knows anything about it, and my dad's answer was interesting. Let me see, I would like to grab my phone just so I could get the full thing from... Where'd I put my phone? Well, it's good, I put it away. Look at this, look. I'm in my bathroom. That's like 2 rooms away, but it sounds like I'm right there with you. Where'd I put my phone? Oh, found it. All right. Actually, I'm gonna keep that up. My bad. So, what did I say? I said that my grandpa learned how to speak English from a little girl, right? And that's how he learned how to speak it so fluently. This is 3 years after he's passed, right? I lost him in 2018. 4 years after he's passed that I'm getting this, okay? So I text my dad about it, and my dad says, I don't know how he learned English. Well, he says, interesting, I don't know how he learned English, but our education system teaches it at schools. He's talking about Puerto Rico. Plus, he was in the Army and years later moved to Chicago for work. So it's not like he didn't know English well, okay? It's not like he didn't know English well. But in his later years, English was by no means his primary language. And when my family would speak to him, they would communicate to him in Spanish, and he would respond in Spanish. Okay? And so I said, figured it was a bit of a long shot. Thanks for the history, though. And then he says, I'd say during his last months, while sitting in the living room, he started seeing people. They wouldn't talk or move around, and I remember him mentioning a little girl. He used to wonder whom they were and asked me sometimes if they were there for him. So, that's the part that got me like, you know, that's kind of cool. And also, I'm chopping up half of a red bell pepper. I like to chop it up also fairly fine because I'm an animal and I sometimes like to eat my salad with a spoon. You know, I belong in jail. I'm literally an inmate that's not in prison. That's okay. That's okay, though. You know, we're all different. I'm an unstoppable force of nature. That's the part where I was like, interesting. Little girl teaches him English fluently in the afterlife, supposedly. My grandpa's seeing people in his last days in our living room. Which, by the way, I remember one time when I was going to school in senior year of high school, I remember hearing a woman's voice calling out to me from the living room and just being like, okay. Anyway, well, she said hello. And then I was like, good morning. But yeah. And so that was the second time that I've seen him. And again, I'm so hard on myself with this type of stuff because of my excuse is due to all of the resistance that I came across initially when I started to experience weird things spiritually by those who were close to me, by those that I lived with. It just became very hard to express this side of myself. So when things like this happen, it's my natural nature to just play it down, try not to create too much of a story around it because all I know is I experienced that. The context of it, the truth behind it, I don't have an answer for you. And honestly, I really didn't want to share this. Part of me really didn't want to share this because that's a strong word, but I kind of came to hate that aspect of myself that sought out these type of experiences because of the destruction that it would have on my social life and because for a period of time, it's how I sought to grow out my YouTube channel, meaning that I felt like I was chasing these experiences for clout, if you will, for attention. And the last thing I want to do is feel like I'm using my grandfather for attention, which I guess you could say that I am by posting this video. But another part of me really just felt like it was a really cool experience. I haven't seen my grandpa in probably like 2 years. And the reason he died 4 years ago, and I say I haven't seen him in 2 years, is because, by the way, celery, just finally chop it, delicious, yummy. And the reason I say, 2 years ago I saw him instead of 4 years when he died, is because I had an out-of-body experience, or we could just say an experience. And I came across this building that was just white. It was almost like it was made out of light. And it was like a commune of souls, if you will, that had, God, I feel like I'm crazy saying this out loud. I'm just very judgmental of myself. Souls that had been human and had come together in the astral plane and just created a common space together, you know? Because if you go out there, you see some crazy things, some things that definitely don't look human. And I'm sure if you're dazed and confused after you died, you would like some type of familiarity as you come to peace with what just happened. You know, if you believe in that being the afterlife. You can believe you go to heaven, you can believe you go to hell, you can believe nothing happens. I'm just saying what I experienced. Also could have just been a dream, figment of my imagination. I love tomatoes, by the way. If you don't like tomatoes, understandable. I just don't agree with you. No, yeah, so I found them in this commune. That was, again, probably like 2 years ago. And it made me happy. It was the first time I'd seen them in you know, at all since he'd passed in 2018. And it was nice. So that's all. That's really it. I saw my grandpa 2 days ago. Said he learned English from a little girl. Text my dad. Dad says a little girl was around on his last days. Maybe it's the same little girl. Maybe it's just, I don't know, quinky dink. Maybe I knew it before and had just forgotten. It made its way in my subconscious. You do what you will with that information. But I experienced what I experienced, and that was awesome. I hope I can find more peace on this subject so I can share with less anxiety. I love you guys. Wow, I guess you don't get to see the full salad. Shame. Bye. Boop.